Hey, we're here at the shop today. We've been out of touch for a little while. It's been 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Haven't been here, been on set, been doing a few other things. We started doing some testing today with the Sutra harnesses, just pulling the top crosses on the fixture, finding out how that's all going to work. Got a few numbers there. Um, I'm using a 5,000 kilo load cell. We've had some issues with load cells ever since I kept breaking 50 or more of the Technora line. So what I've had to do now is I killed a couple actually because the digital is part of the load cell that's receiving the shock load. So what we're doing now is I'm just pre-testing, got a few numbers because I'm not taking it to full shock load explosion on these Sutra harnesses. I'm taking it to their max before the stitching pops or before I can read it and mark it. So I'm going through them. So it's a little bit softer and gentler while I wait. We've had to go to a new system here. Hopefully it'll be in a week or so. We're having to separate the digital from the transducer because when I break stuff, the shock load totally fucks the digital part of the dynos up. So I've eaten up two dynos, a 10 ton and a 5 ton, and I'm on another 5 ton. Luckily, I have these all in the trailer, so I just keep bringing more in. But it's an expensive way to test. So we're having to go to a load beam with a transducer, which will go to our fixed position, and we will have all of our electronics removed from that. We'll actually have to go to a laptop PC. It'll sample at 4,800 per second, and it's calibratable, so it'll come zeroed with the fixtures and everything will be done. So I'm not working, and it's plus or minus 3% on five ton. I'm going to stick with 5 ton, not the 10 ton. So it's plus or minus 150 kilos. So that'll refine things plus the sample rate, because we just saw so many different things when we were breaking the Technora line, and I will re-break once I have the load beam and see if I get any different results as a way of checking. But currently that's what's ordered, and it's taken a bit. We're going to have to rework a fixture or two to get it to all fit in correctly. We would have done a pancake, but a pancake, as nice as it is, won't fit in our fixture, our horizontal pull tester. So we're doing a load beam with rod ends, and that'll be the transducer end, and then we will have it all wired to a dedicated PC, because I hate PCs, but for a lot of this stuff you have to have one. So its sole function for the €100 laptop will be to record and graph these things. It's some pretty cool tooling, so we're stepping up that program now. But like I said, today we did a few tests and got some interesting results on our fixture right now, pulling things on the Sutras. I'm going to do a whole episode on that. This will be an ongoing thing in the background because it's a lot of pics to pull and it's a lot of data. So I'm going to be printing up a harness picture and then labeling what we got on each. And I wanted to take this time on this talk. I'm not going to backstep, but I'm going to clarify something we made in our first or second video with connections to harnesses, specifically the Sutra harnesses. And I use bow shackles, Richard 6mm bow shackles. And we mentioned because of the throat diameter of the Maillon Rapide, it wasn't really that optimal. But I want to clarify this because what's optimal for the connector, i.e. the Maillon, which gets deformed, it doesn't really affect the webbing. So I just have to be really clear here. There's two issues we're looking at. The webbing, the official line from Sutra is the webbing as long as it's over a 6mm smooth surface, i.e. a Maillon Rapide or a Richard shackle. As long as it's 6mm or greater, it will hold the 1.8 tons that are labeled for these points. Which I agree, we've seen some testing today. This is done because in certain applications, i.e. circus or in theater, there are permanently attached 7 and 8mm Maillon Rapide, load rated, left on the harnesses. They're put on the harnesses at the beginning of the shows and they're left there. They're attachment points for various props and or picks and or So they never really come off of there. So in that instance, a Maillon Rapide, because you're not trying to attach it, etc., it's a separate issue, the connector, from what it's doing to the actual webbing. So I just want to really clarify that. The official line from Sutra is you can use any smooth rated connector over 6 millimeter on these picks and retain the full value of the pick points on the webbing. Now, that being said, this does not address the deforming and or the throat bending or the tri-loading on various other connectors, which we've already shown and talked about. So I'm separating the two, and hopefully you folks can understand that as far as the webbing's concerned, it doesn't care. The harness is still rated. As far as ease of use, as far as the connector is concerned, that's a whole other issue that gets into full thread engagement, being able to get it through a harness when it's on somebody's body, over pads, all the things we talked about previously. So I just want to be very clear here so that everyone understands, because we inspect harnesses, we are rated to inspect harnesses, we are testing these harnesses, that the manufacturer specifically states a smooth rated connector over 6 millimeter pin diameter that is going through the webbing. Okay, so that will be the full integrity of the pick points on these harnesses. Now, I believe that to be true, and that works fine for me, but it is a separate and not completely connected issue with the connector used. Okay, so you have to separate the two. Connector choice is one thing, webbing strength and pick point strength is a secondary thing. Okay, so just be aware of this. Now, if it's a permanently attached, like they have the Sutra, I call them frog clips because they're just the male-female clips. A lot of times for theater, for other circus, for drama, for whatever, they have permanent connectors on harnesses. So the rigger can just clip someone into the appropriate male-female connector on the line without having to deal with a carabiner, without having to deal with a shackle, without having to deal with a maillon. Now, this is because the shows run on cues and are rapid, and these things take place. Now, that allows for these to stay permanently attached to the harness in the correct place, because these shows have been tried, they've been tested, they've been proofed. We know the pick points. They use them every show for this performer, and it's on every harness that performer uses. So in that respect, excuse me, that's a different animal than just the random sorting out of stunt pick points while you're testing and the ease of attaching to those connectors to the webbing. Now, that being said, we've already proven that Maillon Rapide 6 mil are more than strong enough in pulling them. We get more than 5 times their working load limit. They deform. If there's too much webbing in them, we know that they tri-load, so they expand, and you can't get the nut undone unless you crimp it close a little bit. So those are all connector issues. They have nothing to do with the harness integrity, okay? So not to beat a dead horse, but I want to make that extremely clear because it's a separate issue. So from Sutra, again, anything over 6 mil, smooth, rated connector will hold the full 1.8 ton or 4,000 pounds these pick points are supposed to hold, okay? And that being said, we had our fixture on the bench today, and we're kind of pulling these in absolutely the wrong directions because the harness pick points for the upper back, we're pulling against vertically. We're pulling them straight against the stitching and against the way they're mounted. We're not pulling them out away from the harness. So we're going to be getting some numbers on these, and I'll be going through them. I'm labeling them in the harness as we work through them. And I'm going to probably wait a little bit longer until I can get the beam load cell next week and play with that and get that all dialed in, because then I'll get my best results. So that's all for Toolbox Talks today. Was kind of a clarification of performer connections and just keeping you up to date since we haven't been in the shop lately. We've been on set and running around doing other things, as well as having pneumonia for a couple weeks. So those things have kept us out of the actual continual testing here and more talks. So this is number, I don't know, 31 or whatever. It's just an update, and it's a clarification on performer flying harness connections. Okay? Thanks a lot, folks. Talk to you next.